Hi everyone, this is Marie Rosado, your South of Atlanta Realtor. I'm posting this intro to to let you know that I'm using my phone uh, to go to the article that you're about to see. I had some technical difficulties earlier and I had to find some creative ways to make this happen. So thank you for bearing with me. Please feel free to share, like, and subscribe. Bye. Hello, everyone. This is Marie Rosado, your South of Atlanta Realtor at Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate Metro Brokers. I am here today to share with you this article that I came across not long ago and I thought might be helpful to you and your family or anybody that might be going through uh, financial hardship during this pandemic. The name of the article is called Everything You Need to Know About Rent Strike 2020. The article was written by Libby Cohen on April the 12th, 2020. The article goes on to say that coronavirus is proving more than just a public health crisis as the economy comes to a screeching stop. Stay-at-home orders are continuing throughout April, and many people face this month's bill without a source of income. While some states have temporarily banned evictions, a movement of tenants have garnered nationwide support for a rent strike. Under Rent Strike 2020, participating renters made it clear that landlords should either forgive the following 2 months of rent or tenants simply wouldn't pay it. Some congressmen and women are behind policies of rent forgiveness, like Representative Elon Omar, Representative Ocasio-Cortez, and Senator Sanders. Now, what is Rent Strike 2020? Rent Strike 2020 is the major organizer for tenants protesting rent payments. According to their website, they represent 1.5 million people who are threatened financially by COVID-19. But it could be way more than that, as non-essential businesses remain closed. Every American is impacted by the receding economy. In addition, the number of employment claims filed climbs by the million each week. For that reason, Rent Strike 2020 demands a rent pause, including utilities, for April and May to alleviate expenses for the unemployed. The article goes on to say that, sorry, I'm just scrolling down. It should be noted there's confusion among the terms. While many say freeze, quote unquote, to calling for a stop on payment, a rent freeze technically means landlord cannot raise rent. It would still require tenants to pay. Now, on a side note, I do want to mention that a lot of people always think of a freeze as, example, if I'm renting an apartment for $1,000, the apartment should be $1,000 forever. And what the rent freeze would mean is that there will never be an increase at all. Now, in theory, that's great for the tenant. However, it's not very feasible for the landlord, because most of the time the landlord has to deal with inflation. He has to deal with property taxes that always goes up, has to deal with cost of fuel, cost of gas that goes up, and along with other expenses that goes along with it. So it might not be feasible in the real world because of inflation. Now, going back to the article, it says what protesters on Twitter, however, are calling for, regardless of the term they use, is best known as rent forgiveness. It would simply wipe the bill from tenants' expenses. Side note, it means that when you look at your bill, the month of they're requesting that the month of April and May be turned zero, that there's no that you don't owe anything. That's basically what those tenants are advocating for. Now, the article poses the question, could the government support a rent strike? Not directly, but there are some efforts to help alleviate pressures on tenants. In March, the federal government passed the $2.2 trillion CARES Act in an attempt to relieve some of the economic distress. For renters, about $12 billion of that was set aside for public housing-related efforts. Many renters in public or private properties qualify for the around $1,200 stimulus check. But many state governors said it's not enough. In lieu of a stronger housing support, some states are also prohibiting eviction. Over 12 states, including New York, have implemented eviction moratoriums, which temporarily pause evictions. While eviction moratoriums provide relief during stay-at-home orders, they will eventually be lifted. It's not likely that much will have changed for those who are newly unemployed by then. Now, I can say on a side note that in Georgia, landlords are able to file with their respective counties eviction notices. However, they are not being processed yet in the court system. Now, I'm fairly sure and certain that as the state is continuing its reopening process, the courts will eventually be open so that the judges will process those eviction orders and be given to the sheriff so that the sheriff can come here and issue the eviction to the tenant. However, it's not happening now, but it is in works. So if the paperwork is being filed, it's just a matter of time before a tenant who's behind can actually receive that eviction notice at moment's notice. So just wanted to share that tidbit with you. Now, while state governments can put in some safety net for renters, it's the federal government that has to step in for the landlords. Landlords pay banks for mortgages, which states don't have the power to pause. So while some states are freezing or forgiving rent payments for tenants, bill for landlords can still exist. Although mortgage relief has been granted for some homeowners. Now, some larger landlord companies have leeway to make it through the following months, while other landlords will rely on their different sources of income. But not everyone is in a position to miss out on a month's payment. If a landlord cannot front this month's bill, let alone the following months, then the utilities for the building could be shut off. Even worse, small landlord owners could fall back on their mortgage loans and bank will foreclose the building. I do want to point out that contrary to popular belief, a lot of landlords, they're not making a lot of money. They are not, sometimes they're operating at a loss. And in addition, they may not have a reserve account, or they may not have a savings account for the business where they can tap into that money to carry on to pay for expenses in the event that the tenant is not able to pay. So this is something to keep in mind. If you are considering doing a rent strike, it might be all good, but the landlord might be suffering just as well, because if there's an issue with the property, if you call in for maintenance or your AC is not working, he may not be able to afford to provide services of those repairs because he may not have money. And if you don't pay the rent, then it's going to be this terrible cycle, really. So what happened on April the 1st? Um, NMHCH reported that 1/3 of 13.4 million renters did not pay their landlord for the month of April. And by May, it's likely that there will be more people who cannot afford rent due to unemployment. And if the rent strike continue to gain momentum, there could be more tenants that stand against paying by choice. Now, at the time that I'm posting this video, if you go online, you will see this other that the renters strike movement is gaining momentum to a lot of states, such as New York, Philadelphia, and however, there's protests. However, no resolution has been made for these particular states. So this is something that we're still going to have to watch and see what that particular governor or that particular state decide for these renters. So it says here, is there any more relief coming for renters? Not one governor has backed rent forgiveness yet, despite some support from Congress, including Ocasio-Cortez, Omar, and Senator Sanders. But leaders on Capitol Hill, as well as Trump, have shown signs that another stimulus relief package is likely. Now, one person commented that eventually the moratorium will be lifted, and the last thing that they want to do is to create an environment where low-income renters fall off a financial cliff, and then everybody's stuck with a crash of eviction. But as of now, rent payments are not gone for good. Instead, they loom in the future until one side pays them. Again, good article. I thought it provided some very good information, give you a different perspective of what's going on. As mentioned, many states now are seeing the movement growing as the situation progresses. But I would suggest that if you are a renter and you are going through some financial hardship because of unemployment or because your business is closed right now, I would suggest that you think about reaching out to your property manager, to the landlord. Have a conversation with him or her to explain to him or her what's going on, to possibly use your security deposit to cover at least 1 month's rent for now, to possibly to think about waiving some of those late fees, giving you a discount, or setting up a payment plan. So there's different ways about it. And if you do feel like a rent strike is the only hope, I would very much suggest that you really think about talking to an attorney so he can provide you with the pros and the cons of going forward with a rent strike. And I will definitely make sure to leave a link to the description box below so you can check it out. And also a link about the rent strike 2020 movement to check it out as well. And I hope that you found this video, this post helpful. If you do, please feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. And thank you. Until next time, bye. Bye.